friends, welcome back to What Cat Reads. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. We have just wrapped up July, and so I thought I would talk about some of the books that I read during July and some of my thoughts on them. So during July, I read 15 books. Of that, it was 4,224 pages for the month. Apparently, July ended up a lot like June. Lots of books being read. As far as format version, I read 2 books in print. I did 4 books in audio, and then 9. That's not right. Oh, wait. Is that 2, 4? All right. This says 9 in ebook. Oh, wait, yes, because one of them. All right. I had a couple books that kind of branched over, and it messed up my count. So, 9 ebooks, 4 audio, and 4 print. I'm sorry, in 2 print. And of those, 1 book was over 500 pages. There was 7 books that were under 300 pages. And then 7 books that were in the middle of those 2. I had a lot of fun reading this month. And so it's just kind of one of those. I'm going to take it where I can get it. Another update with my reading is my genre blanket. Let me see if I can set this up so we can see it better. Alright. So there it is. I'm just going to turn it sideways so we can see it. It's getting to the point where I won't be able to get it all the way in a frame much longer. But July's books are from this dark gray through to this purple here. That's 15 books, 30 rows added on. And if we go through the colors, I had 2 thrillers, followed by a sci-fi, then another thriller, 2 fantasy novels, then 5 romance, dark romance novels, 1 historical fiction, 1 contemporary, 1 mystery, and then ended the month with another one of those romance, dark romance. Novels, lots of fun reading going on. Lots of books I read this month really made me question myself and my reading tastes, which we'll get into in just a minute. I'm going to zoom back in just a little. There we go. All right. So getting into the reads. Where do I want to start? Let me start with this series that I've been reading and just working towards knocking off my list and getting caught up on those, since that was one of my big goals this month. Or this year, I'm sorry. I did read Firefly, the Ghost Machine. I had a lot of fun with this one. I know I talked a little bit in my TBR list for July that a lot of people were very confused with this one, I guess is the right word. It didn't measure up. Maybe because I read some of those reviews, it was a great ride for me. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Kind of seeing the quote unquote ideal lives of some of our characters. I really enjoyed it. The writing style is great. I like James Lovegrove. He's the main author for this one, with Joss Whedon consulting in. With this book, I'm just really looking forward to the next one. I have that for the month of August, and that's Generations. So I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going. But it seems to be leading up to Serenity, the movie, and that focus on River. So we'll see how the next books go. And then another one I read that was a series I'm working through is Demon Tide. This is part of the Black Witch Chronicles. In this, we are following our main character, Ellerin. And in this one, we get Ellerin over in the sorry, I want to make sure I have the right country. In the Neuland area. In this, we kind of see what I love with the Aurelian cycle of there's a group of people who are trying to do things different and kind of falling into some of the same traps and pitfalls of running their government. So in this one, we do see a lot of Neuland for the Neu. Just that kind of putting up those barriers and the walls that everyone went there to get away from that. So I had a really good time with this one. We see a lot of characters that had to flee before, and they're all kind of regrouping in the Neulands. So this one was a lot of fun, and I'm really enjoying that series. I am looking forward to that next one coming out. I believe it comes out at the beginning of 2023. All right, continuing down my list of series I have ongoing and trying to catch up in was Hidden Bodies by Caroline Keats. This is part of the You series. Netflix picked it up. The first book really followed along with the first season. This one, we see a deviation, which was a lot of fun for me because I watched seasons 1 and 2 on Netflix before I read the books. And I really struggled through the first book because it was so close. I might could go back and watch and read at the same, and reread the first book to see if there were any differences, but it wasn't anything super different. In this one, we do see some very stark differences, and so it was a lot of fun. The next one I have up is You Love Me. I'm not planning on reading that quite yet. I'll probably read it in maybe October, November. I don't know. But I did enjoy this one a lot more than I did the first. I was talking to my sister, who she's the one who got me onto the Netflix series and into the books, and found out she hadn't read any of the books yet. And I did tell her, I said, you can just skip the first book and jump into the second after watching the first season, and you'll be perfectly caught up with where this one's going. Hidden Bodies. I did have the physical book, obviously, but I listened to this one. I really enjoy the audio for this series. It just kind of helps me get into the rhythm of the story better. I did listen to you on audio as well. And that could be because I was introduced to the TV show first, and just my brain expects it to be auditory. But I listened to this one and counted it as an audiobook, not a physical book for my reading. Alright, so then the next one that I have that I read in July is as far as working down my series list, was Good Girl, Bad Blood. My sister and I have read this one together, and we had good intentions of just sitting down with our books together in the living room and reading it and getting it done. And I don't know that that's going to work for us in the future. We did read about 30% together, and then we finished the books separately. She finished a couple days before me. This one, we're looking at Pip, and she's about 2 months past solving the mystery that we have in Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And after all the events that happen there, she decides that she's completely done. It took over too much of her life. The consequences were more than she wanted to deal with. And so we have this separation from it. She pulls away. She wants to finish her streaming of the podcast for it, along with any updates that they have as some of the trials are going on. But overall, she's decided she's done. And at a memorial service, one of her friend's brothers disappears. And he comes to her asking for her help. And Pip is adamant, I'm not in that world anymore. I don't want to do that. But when the police don't really get involved either, she goes ahead and takes it on. And we kind of see some of her struggles through it, of the post-traumatic stress that she experienced in the first book leading into the second one. It does kind of end on a cliffhanger, and I am excited to go on ahead and finish this trilogy. But I'm just not quite sure when that's going to happen. With my July being the way it was, we decided to take a short vacation and drive out to my parents' house in Arkansas. It's about a 13-hour drive from where I'm at, and so enter audiobooks. These next two audiobooks I'm going to talk about, I actually had the physical book on my shelf and just didn't get around to picking them up. Happened to see them on my library's Libby app and said, great time to read it. Let's do it. One of those was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Oops. My daughter has been listening to Matt Haig's, I believe it's The Boy Who Saved Christmas. It's one of his books for the children, for the middle grade readers. Let's see if I have it here. I'm sorry, The Boy Called Christmas. It's the girl who saved Christmas. A Boy Called Christmas. And she really likes his narration of that book. So I thought that this would be a great one to listen to in the car on the way. This one does have trigger warnings for suicide. So if that's an issue or something that you avoid, please be aware of that going in. This book, we follow Nora Seed. She is struggling in her day-to-day life, feels that she is unimportant and no one will miss her. And very reminiscent of like, oh, what is that one? There's a movie. Very reminiscent of It's a Wonderful Life, where George Bailey kind of thinks that his life doesn't really matter. That's kind of where Nora is sitting. But in this one, Nora finds that between life and death, there is a library. And in this library, she can reimagine her life and kind of step into that life. You know, just small changes and how those little changes can really make a big difference. And through this book, we see Nora try on several different lives and then get to a point where maybe she has found the perfect life. And so we get to visit her life in different stages, or in different reimaginings of it. It was a lot of fun. I love the library theme. This was just, it was a lot of fun to listen to. And while there is the very serious issue of suicide, we kind of get a lot of the lighter elements in this book as well, and kind of her seeing if life really is better without her. So this one was a lot of fun. The another one that we listened to in the car was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Pinner. I really enjoyed this one. I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if I had just read it. The audio and being stuck in the car with nothing else to do really helped me get through this one. It is a historical fiction, and we are following a woman whose husband cheats on her. She just found this out right before their 10-year anniversary. She takes their 10-year anniversary trip by herself, and while in England, she finds an apothecary's vial in the water and goes on a search to find out where this bottle came from, where this apothecary was, and trying to just figure out who the woman was and what her life story was. Just more as an escape from what's going on in her own life. And it was, as the reader, we get to see more in depth of the apothecary and what was going on. The end is a little less, or at least for me, it didn't seem as clear as if this was our main character, Caroline, writing out this story based on what she finds later on, or if this is just the author giving us as readers a inside peek. But I enjoyed this one. A lot of thought-provoking material in this one. My 12, well, she's 12 now, but my 11, almost 12-year-old really enjoyed this as well and made me wait until our return home trip to finish the last 12%. Alright, so that just leaves a couple more ebooks that I read. The contemporary ebook I read was Talk Bookish to Me. We are following an author who is on a deadline. I seem to gravitate a little bit towards those type of books during the summer. At least one every summer, it seems. In this one, we are following this author. She's on a deadline and is also helping her best friend plan her wedding. And as the maid of honor, there's this big party before the wedding. Not quite this is before the reception, but like as everyone's coming into town for the wedding, the week of the wedding. And she runs into her college flame. And there's a lot of diving into her past, into his past, and figuring out kind of what went wrong and how they eventually figure out how to make things work. This is the traditional rom-com trope of enemies to lovers, I guess you would say. Exes to lovers again. I don't know the exact, like, which trope to exactly put this in. It was a lot of fun, very light read, especially after the series I had read just before that, which we'll get to at the end. I really enjoyed it, had a great time. I read it on ebook from my library and just had so much fun with it. It was that perfect palate cleanser for me. So I guess I'll do the two thrillers I read at the beginning of the month. I've been kind of bouncing all over the month. But the first one I did was The Appeal. That one was part of a book club that they had done. I heard them talk a little bit about it. It's the Pyramid Book Club. And the hosts were reading the book. They hadn't gotten to the part where they were discussing what goes on. The title for The Appeal has a double meaning for the UK. In the US, an appeal we see very much as something going on in the courts, in the law. And in the UK, they also have an appeal kind of like it's a fund sharing thing. So the book opens up, we're following this family, and their granddaughter has cancer. And so they're trying to collect money for her treatments. One of the treatments that they're wanting is a treatment that is still in trials, but has been approved in the US market, but not yet in the UK. And so they can pay for it as a trial and get the treatment for this little girl. And so that's that side of the appeal. But as we go through the book, we find out that there is more to it. There are a couple women who are trying to help their boss out, who's a lawyer, and figure out, like, their lawyer presents it to them, or their boss, the lawyer, presents it to them and asks them for basically a fresh pair of eyes, and they go through and look at all what's going on and try to see if they come to, if their conclusions are matching what the lawyer's is. I struggled a little bit in this one. This is another one of those that, had I just been reading it, I would not have finished it. But I don't think it could stand as an audiobook alone either. I had my copy of the ebook in front of me along with listening to it, because there's a lot of moving parts in it. There's a lot of documents that the audio does its best to present it, but when you're looking at pamphlets and you're looking at a lot of numbers and texts back and forth, which most of this book is set up where you're reading emails and texts between characters. I needed to see that as well. And I know that when it's in a multimedia platform like that, I need both. I found this out with Illuminate, and needed that. I had to see the reports and hear it, or else I just struggle through it. The appeal was very much that same way. The second thriller I read during July was The Locked Door. This one is following the child of a serial killer. And she has changed her name and done all of that to kind of escape the stigmatisms that come with who your parents are. And especially when the world has seen some of the evil things that have happened. It really kind of made me think that kind of thing through a little bit. You know, how we treat others based on reputation or their parents' reputation, in a very different way. But in this, we are following this girl, and there's a lot of twists and turns in it that really made me think a lot more. I'm struggling with giving any sort of description in this due to the fact that this is a thriller, and I don't want to spoil those for any interested readers. It was a really good one. I enjoyed it. I had a hard time putting it down. I think I finished it in 48 hours. Really good. I really enjoyed it. And I think it pairs well with the series that I read while in Arkansas this year. And kind of giving you those different viewpoints and giving you things to think about when with very hard to understand topics. Okay, so the series that really blew my mind, I honestly didn't think I would read more than just the first book, but I read all 5 in like 4 days. And it has left me questioning myself. This series is the Mindfuck series, beginning with The Risk. This series, we are following Lana Myers, whose father was accused of a crime. And because he was accused of the crime, and many in this town felt that they were robbed justice due to events in the book, they took their frustrations out on his daughter and his son. This is Lana and her brother. And Lana is going through, she has lost everything in her life. Her mother's gone, her father's gone, her brother's gone. She has lost it all to this one town and decides to take revenge. Which might have been deserved, whatever. I really struggle with my feelings on this series. In her mind, at least, it is justified. The tricky part comes when she meets the lead supervisory agent on her cases. And it really throws a wrench in her life. So, like I said, we're following Lana. She has just been destroyed. The first 2 or 3 chapters, we get a very, very vivid picture of her revenge on some of these characters who have just destroyed her life in her mind. And through this, like, you very quickly understand the name of the series. It really messes with your mind on everything going on. It's very descript. At least in the first book, I felt that after the first book, it wasn't quite as... It at least wasn't shocking anymore. By the end of the first book, you kind of know what has happened to her from her point of view. And there are moments, at least, that I don't want to say rooting for our main character, but I could definitely see why she felt that she was left in this position of getting revenge. I really, really struggled at the end of book 2. And I don't... If it weren't for St. Abby's writing and her way that she was portraying everything, I'm not sure if I would have finished. But we do start to see some redeeming elements for Lana as she's developing this relationship with SSA Logan. And this series really gave me a lot of Criminal Minds vibes. So if you like Criminal Minds and you like spicy novels and you are okay with very, very gruesome events, you might enjoy this and be left in the same position where you're wondering if something is wrong with you, because by the end of the book, you at least feel that she was vindicated. Whether it's right or wrong, I will leave that up to you if you read the series. But it's one that really made me think and really question some of the stuff that I read. But I had a lot of fun with it. Yeah. Very thought-provoking. So, how was your July? Hopefully it does not leave you questioning everything. But just leave me a comment on some of the books that you read, anything you think I should read after hearing what I read in July. Just let me know, and I'll talk to you soon.